Can I say something that most people in church won't say out loud? Sometimes you get angry at God. Not frustrated, not a little disappointed, genuinely, deeply, burning angry. The kind of angry where you stop praying, not because you forgot, but because you don't want to talk to Him right now. The kind of angry where worship songs feel hollow and empty and you can't bring yourself to sing them. The kind of angry where someone says, God is good, and something inside you wants to say, is He? Because it doesn't feel like it from where I'm standing. Maybe you prayed for something for years, and it didn't happen. Maybe you trusted God with something precious, your health, your marriage, your child, your dream, and it fell apart anyway. Maybe you watched someone you love suffer, and you prayed and believed and stood in faith, and God didn't show up the way you expected. And now there's this anger sitting in your chest, heavy, hot, uncomfortable. And the worst part? You feel guilty for feeling it. Because good Christians aren't supposed to be angry at God, right? Wrong. The Bible is full of people who were angry at God, and God didn't strike them down for it. David, the man God called after my own heart, wrote this in Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? I cry out by day, but you do not answer. I cry out by night and am not silent." That's not a polished Sunday morning prayer. That's a man at the end of his rope, shaking his fist at heaven, demanding to know why God is silent. And God didn't rebuke him. He didn't say, "David, you need to check your attitude." He didn't walk away. He kept those words in His Word for thousands of years, for people like you and me to read when we feel exactly the same way. And then there's Job, a man who lost everything, his children, his health, his wealth, his future. And he didn't sit quietly and say, "Blessed be the name of the Lord." He said, "I will not keep silent. I will speak out in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul." He argued with God. He demanded answers. He said, "God, I need you to explain yourself to me." And you know what God said about Job at the end of the story? He said Job had spoken what was right. Not the friends who gave polished religious answers, not the ones who defended God with theology, but Job, the one who was honest, angry, raw, and real. God can handle your anger. He's not fragile. He's not going to shatter because you told Him you're furious. He already knows, and He'd rather have your honest anger than your polished silence. Here's the truth about anger at God that nobody talks about. You can only be angry at someone you expected something from. Think about that. You don't get angry at a stranger for not showing up. You get angry at the person you trusted, the person you believed in, the person you built your life around. So when you're angry at God, when you're furious, hurt, betrayed, that anger is actually evidence of your faith. You wouldn't be angry if you didn't believe He was capable of more. You wouldn't be furious if you didn't think He had the power to change things. You wouldn't feel betrayed if you hadn't trusted Him in the first place. Your anger is not the absence of faith. It's faith that's been wounded. And wounded faith is still faith. It's the faith of a person who believed deeply enough to be devastated when things didn't go the way they prayed. It's the faith of someone who trusted God enough to bring their most precious things to Him. And that kind of faith, raw, broken, honest faith, is exactly what God works with. Here's what I want you to understand about how God responds to your anger. He doesn't turn away. He leans in. When Job was at his most furious, when he was demanding answers, when he was questioning God's justice, God didn't send silence. He showed up. He spoke to Job out of the storm. Not with answers, not with explanations, not with a list of reasons why everything happened the way it did, just with His presence. And somehow, that was enough. Because Job's problem was never really about the suffering. It was about feeling like God wasn't there. And when God showed up in your anger, when you feel His presence in the middle of your fury, the anger starts to change. Not instantly, not completely, but slowly something shifts from, "God, why did you do this to me?" to, "God, I don't understand this, but I know you're here." And that small, painful, honest shift is the beginning of healing. Not because the hurt is gone, not because the loss is suddenly okay, but because you're no longer alone in it. So what do you do when the anger is still there, when it hasn't shifted yet? When God feels distant and the hurt is still fresh, and you're not ready to sing worship songs yet? You bring it to Him anyway. Not cleaned up, not dressed in religious language, not softened or polished or made to sound more acceptable. You bring it raw. You sit down, wherever you are, and you say, "God, I'm angry. I prayed and you didn't answer the way I needed. I trusted you and it still fell apart, and I don't understand. And I need you to meet me here, in this anger, in this hurt, in this place where my faith feels broken." That prayer, messy, honest, furious, is more powerful than 1,000 polished prayers said through gritted teeth. Because God doesn't want your performance. He wants your presence. Even when your presence is angry, even when your presence is bitter, even when your presence is barely holding on. Come anyway. Be angry anyway. Bring the hurt anyway. Because the God who kept David's raw, furious psalms in His word, the God who called Job righteous even in his anger, that God is not afraid of what you're feeling right now. He's waiting for you to stop hiding it. Your anger at God is not a wall between you and Him. It's a door. Because the moment you bring it to Him honestly, the moment you stop pretending everything is fine and start telling Him the truth, that's the moment something begins to move. Not instantly, not completely, but something shifts. You are not a bad Christian for being angry. You are not faithless for questioning. You are not broken beyond repair for feeling betrayed. You are human, and you are in good company. David was angry. Job was angry. Even Jesus on the cross cried out asking why God had forsaken him. And God was there for all of them. He's here for you too. In the anger, in the questions, in the silence that feels like abandonment, but is actually just the space between what you asked for and what He's preparing. Bring Him your anger. He can take it. And when you do, when you stop holding it and start handing it over, you might find that on the other side of your anger, He was there the whole time.